Some of the most sadistic and evil people to ever live have taunted the police with cryptic or graphic letters that will be sure to send chills down your spine. Some of these letters describe what a killer has done to his victims, or they are just downright threatening. Whatever the case may be, the police have been dealing with these scary messages from killers for many years, and guess what? They probably will never stop. Well, how's it going, you guys? I'm your host for this one, Landon Dallas, saying welcome back to another Most Amazing Top 10 video. If you guys aren't already part of the Most Amazing family here on YouTube, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Also hit the bell notification button as well. That way, as soon as we make videos, you guys will be notified right away. And I hope you guys are all having an amazing day, because I'm having a pretty good day myself. And before we get started, I want to know, what are your plans for Halloween? Let me know in the comment section below. Let's get started with this one. This is the top 10 scary messages sent from criminals and prison inmates. Starting this list off, in at number 10, we have H.H. Holmes' confession letters. This guy was definitely not a saint. He's considered to be one of America's first serial killers, and is believed that he has killed somewhere between 20 and 200 people. Is this real life right now? How do you have a gap insanely large like that? He killed most of his victims in his very own murder castle that was carefully built to have a ton of death traps inside. But after several weeks on the run, he was finally caught in 1894. During his time in custody, he wanted to have his confession letters published exclusively in the Philadelphia Inquirer. One of the creepiest messages was this. He said, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing." I'm not sure if I would agree with that. You didn't need to build a murder castle, and you didn't need to have murder weapons in your possession. He should have found himself, another hobby. The lipstick killer makes a scene in at number 9. Back in 1945 and 1946, 3 women were brutally murdered in Chicago, and the killer wrote a creepy message on the walls of their home with lipstick. It said, "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." Well, how about this? Instead of killing more women and using their lipstick for creepy messages, because why the heck are you doing that? Why don't you just go to the police station and turn yourself in? His final victims was a 6-year-old girl who he abducted from her home. He left a ransom letter behind and demanded that the family pay him $20,000, and they warned them not to go to the FBI. Well, 6 months later, William Herons was arrested when he was 17 years old, and he gave the police a guilty plea so that he can avoid the death penalty. Since then, he spent the rest of his life in prison until he died in 2012. And now, in at number 8, we're talking about the Beltway snipers. This was a shooting spree that happened in Maryland and the Virginia area in October of 2002. 10 people were killed and 3 people were injured in sniper-style executions. John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Melvoy shot their victims with a single bullet fired from a distance, and then the killers just vanished. They wrote down a list of demands in a lengthy letter and sent it to the police. They were demanding $10 million, or else children in the area will be killed. The letter was pinned to a tree outside of a restaurant where the snipers had shot a man. Thankfully, they were caught and arrested, where one of them got the death penalty and the other one got life in prison. Next up on our list, and at number 7, we have the Golden State Killer. The brutal killer preyed on the communities of Sacramento and the Orange County. He committed at least 13 murders, 15 assaults, and broke into more than 120 homes, and it took place several decades to capture and arrest him. As it turns out, this sick guy was a former police officer. I mean, is this real life right now? And this is why he was able to avoid being caught. He knows how they think. He's a step ahead. After he would attack a victim, they would get a chilling phone call where they would hear him breathing heavily, and he would continue to threaten them. He would say, "I'm going to kill you," repeatedly on the phone. And if that wasn't enough, he also called the police station and said, "I have my next victim already stalked, and you guys can't catch me." Serial killer Todd Kohlhepp brings us to number 6. He was responsible for the murder of 7 people in South Carolina between 2003 and 2016. But he was finally arrested when a missing woman was rescued from a storage container where she had been kept in chains from this brutal killer. But after he was captured, Kohlhepp claimed that there were 3 more victims. He wrote an 8-page letter and sent it to the media. And in his creepy letter, he said, Yes, there are more than 7. I tried to tell investigators and I did tell the FBI, but it was blown off. At this point, I really don't see any reason to give numbers or locations. We still don't know how many other victims he had or where they were being kept. All we know is that they're all dead and they could have all been saved. Happy Face Killer terrorizes us at number 5. Keith Jesperson earned this nickname because he would draw smiley faces on the letters that he sent to the police. His first victim was a woman that he met in a bar. He viciously beat and strangled her. After his first kill, he wrote a confession on a bathroom wall at a bus station and he signed it with a happy face. He wrote, "I beat her to death and loved it. I'm sick, but I enjoy myself too." But of course, the fun didn't stop there. He also wrote, "Look over your shoulder, I'm closer than you think. Well, my chances of having a good night's sleep tonight has definitely been ruined." A sadistic cannibal bites his way into number 4 on our list. Albert Fish was more than just a cannibal. He was also a really prolific serial killer and kidnapper. I guess you can call him a triple threat in the criminal department, but in the 1920s, he confessed to killing 3 people, but later the truth came out. He claimed that he has killed at least 100 children. During an interview with the police, he confessed to making stew out of his victims' ears, nose, and other pieces of their face and belly. He said he would add onions, carrots, and other vegetables, and it was the best thing he's ever made. I guess you can call him the real-life Hannibal Lecter. But one of the most disturbing things about Fish is that he sent a letter to one of the victims' parents. She was a 10-year-old girl who had been killed. Well, he cooked her and ate her back in 1928. He wrote, "I choked her to death and cut her into small pieces so I could take my meat to my rooms, and if that's not terrifying, I don't know what is." The Angel of Death comes onto our list at number 3. Donald Harvey was working in Ohio hospitals as an orderly, but instead of helping patients recover, he was secretly murdering them. He somehow found creative ways to poison at least 30 patients before the police were able to catch on. Before his arrest, his coworkers gave him the nickname Angel of Death because he would always seem to be around whenever a patient would die. While he was in prison, he wrote his pen pal this creepy message: "Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change the things I can, and the wisdom to hide the bodies of the people I had to kill because they pissed me off." So he went on a killing spree because people were simply just annoying him. Have you ever heard of anger management classes? I mean, he should have done us all a favor and gotten professional help where he didn't have to interact with anyone. Next up on our list, number 2, we have the BTK serial killer. Dennis Rader gave himself the nickname BTK because of his chilling killing method. BTK stands for bind, torture, and kill. So between 1974 and 1991, he killed 10 people in Kansas, but he took some breaks in between to, spend some time with his family. I mean, how generous are you? He also thought that he was smarter than the police, so he would send them taunting letters periodically. This letter is probably the creepiest out of all of them. Bear with me on this one. Apparently his grammar wasn't very good, but I'll be reading it verbatim. "It's a big complicated game my friend of the monster play, putting victims numbered down. Follow them, checking up on them, waiting in the dark, waiting. Maybe you can stop him. I can't. He already chosen his next victim. Thankfully, he was caught after he tried to step up his game. He began sending his letters on a floppy disk, but they were immediately traced back to him. I guess he's not as smart as he thought he was." And now, topping our scary list, and at number 1, we have the infamous Jack the Ripper. The identity of this brutal serial killer still remains a mystery till this day. He roamed the streets of London, killing at least 5 women who were believed to be prostitutes. There were hundreds of letters sent to the police that were signed in his name, but there were a few that stood out. One of his letters had an actual piece of human kidney attached to it, and it was apparently from one of his victims. In his letter he wrote, "I shan't quit ripping until I do get buckled. I gave the last lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again." He also mentioned how he ate the other half of the kidney and saved some of the blood for ink. This is absolutely terrifying, but I still think the fact that the serial killer was never caught makes things 1,000 times worse. How many other victims are dead now because of him? Sadly, we may never know that answer. Well, there you guys have it. You've made it to the end of this video. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. I was your host, Landon Do Not Sing, and I will see all you most amazing people in the next video.